We encourage comments, engagement, and share this Zoom link and share housecallpro.com/coronavirus in other groups you're in. That's how you would help us get this, what we're teaching right now, out to more pros. And this is our way to give back. So as many people as we can get on here, the better. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Mel for your current state of the world.
Great, thank you, and good evening. I see that lots of people are joining us for the first time. Welcome. Hopefully you'll get some good actionable items out of tonight's conversation. I'm Melina Fairleigh, Senior Vice President of People at Housecall Pro. Feel free to call me Mel. I'm not a CPA or a journalist or a lawyer or a doctor of any sort. I'm a human resources professional, so I've been doing this work for over 20 years, and I've been updating all of my employees at Housecall Pro on what's going on with coronavirus every day. And for the last 2 weeks, we've been bringing those updates to you live each night. So I spent the majority of my career in retail grocery. I worked for the company Trader Joe's, which I hope many of you know and love. So I have a great amount of respect and empathy for those of you that are currently out there doing essential services, working with the public in this uncertain time. So just a big thank you to all of you in America right now who are doing that hard work. We've all moved to working from our homes. I'm a homeowner and a mom of 4 kids who are now all apparently homeschooled and bored out of their minds. So I know that a lot is changing right now. So hopefully every night we can give you a quick update of what's going on in the world and what's going on in the country.
Perfect.
And so I know that people are asking you questions as business owners and as trusted resources. So we're going to give you what you need to feel like you're up to date.
Yep. And speaking of trusted resources, obviously, when you're out and about and you're looking on the internet or you're seeing things on TV or whatever you happen to be, things might look copy pasted, things might look like they're hoaxes or memes. So make sure that you always have your sources. So we'll always publish the source where we find our information. So if you guys want to get back to it or research it yourself, we're making sure that all the information is coming from trusted sources. So make sure you keep an eye out on those things.
And things are moving quickly, so often there's information that is relevant and valid and true, and it changes the next day. So staying up to date on a daily basis is a really good thing to do. So getting into some of the numbers, according to Johns Hopkins University, there are now almost 600,000 total cases and over 27,000 total deaths worldwide. In the US alone, and we are now the leader in cases, we have surpassed 100,000 total cases. And we are nearing 1,600 deaths in the US.
Yeah, and this is the map. We'll provide the link here in the comments. So this is exactly where we're pulling it from here. So if you want to zoom in on a particular state, because that's where you happen to live, you can actually zoom right in and actually get right to the details of each individual little area as well.
Yeah, and today we heard that New York, who is currently hit the hardest in the US, the coronavirus killed 134 people in New York in just one day, which is really, our hearts go out to all of those that are impacted, and especially to New York, who's really ahead of where many of us are in our communities. We've only just had a few folks impacted in that way here where we are in San Diego, so our hearts go out to New York.
Yeah, and it's crazy how quickly it accelerated, because just yesterday we were saying it was 83,000. Now we're well over 100, and
right.
Some of those deaths were right. So now is when things are really going to get to grow, as we expected they would.
Right. So this time last night, I went on that website that Roland just showed you, and I updated our numbers, and I did the same right before jumping on tonight. So went from 83,000 cases to 100,000 cases, and 1,200 deaths to 1,600 deaths, like Roland said. So really moving quite remarkably fast. So I wanted to give you a sense of how the world is reacting. We all are starting to get a really clear sense of what's going on here, but to give you a world update, the Russian government's ordered a shutdown of all non-essential businesses. The South African government announced that the country would enter a 3-week lockdown. China announced that it was going to suspend practically all international travelers coming into China because they are worried that it might trigger a second wave. And in the UK, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, tested positive. And so he's self-isolating and plans to continue working. So this is truly a global pandemic. And in the US, some news today, President Trump has ordered General Motors to produce ventilators using the Defense Production Act. So this allows the president to compel private businesses to force them to produce needed medical supplies. And the president said that in 100 days, there'll be more than 100,000 additional ventilator units, which is more than 3 times the amount made here in the US in a typical year. I mean, just remarkable production. And additionally, Boeing is producing and donating plastic face shields, they've announced. So certainly supplies are in, short supply, and getting those things to the people that need them. A lot of those will be going to New York. So the big news, we talked about this some last night. We talked about it all last night. The House of Representatives today did vote to pass the $2 trillion stimulus bill. This is the largest economic stimulus bill in US history. And in just the last few hours, President Trump signed this historic bill into law. So that was our topic last night. More questions than we've ever had in a live cast. We still have more questions. We've been doing research all day. The bill is over 800 pages long. So there's still much work to do to figure out how all of it will be implemented and rolled out. So
yep. There's some really cool stuff online that we found. One is this cool little calculator that helps you actually figure out from the stimulus payment what you would be getting in terms of a check from the government here. And it's really simple. Have you filed your taxes? Yes or no? Are you married or single? What was your income? How many children? Wouldn't it be amazing if I had 12? Look at that, 7,200 stimulus payment. This calculator here, we'll post the link here for you guys to play with.
Put that down to a reasonable number.
All right, 222. All right, here we go.
There you go.
2,200. No, I'm gonna tell you guys how you can get a $10,000 check here in a second. So.
Absolutely. So most adults would get $1,200 per adult with that calculator that Roland just showed you, an additional $500 for each child. So here's one good piece of news. You don't have to apply for that money. If the IRS has your bank account information, they're going to transfer the money to you via direct deposit. They're going to look at your recent income taxes to see what the numbers are. So you don't even have to give them that information. They know how many kids you claimed. They know what your income was. And most people will get those checks, that check within 3 weeks. So yep. Good news. So there's one thing that you don't need to do anything about. You can just check the mail.
Yeah, I think the biggest news here is the $10,000 check that everyone here watching can go apply for if you've got a business. So let's talk about the $10,000 check, because we had our lawyers looking over this. We've circulated around. We wanted to make sure this was really real before we went on and told you how you guys can get $10,000 essentially for free. So let's go through the details here. So on one of the covenants here in the stimulus bill, it says that if you are applying for a Small Business Act loan, so an SBA loan, you have the ability to get a $10,000 advance on that money, whether or not you actually end up qualifying for the loan. And in addition to that, you don't have to repay it. So this is a $10,000 advance, whether or not you actually get the loan funded. So this means you have to be a small business. You have to sign under the penalty of perjury that you are a small business when you're applying for that loan. They will advance you the check, and the check is going to be used for a couple different things. So this is what you have to use it for. This is very key, very critical, because if you don't do this,
it's important.
Yeah, if you don't do this, then it's not good. Okay, so one is you got to make sure that you can use it for these couple things here. So providing paid sick leave to employees unable to work due to the direct effect of the coronavirus. 2 is maintaining payroll to retain employees during business disruptions or substantial slowdowns, so paying your people. 3, meeting increased costs to either get materials because you can't find them because of the lack of supply chain. And the last one here, making rent or mortgage payments and repaying any obligations that cannot be met due to revenue loss. So that last one is key. So that last one means that repaying obligations that cannot be met due to revenue loss, that is pretty much anything in your business. So that D allows you to use this to operate your business, keep it alive. Now, here's the beauty of it. For the repayment part, you're not required to repay any of the amounts under the subsection, even if the loan is denied. So this means just by applying, so let me just go here real quick. Let me just go share my screen, okay? When I go here, so here we go, disasterloan.sba.gov, you go here to apply. So right here, there's 3 business forms here. So you wanna go home, download these forms, fill them out, and you can either upload them right here by dragging and dropping them, or you can mail it, okay? Obviously, one's gonna be a little faster than the other, but this is all you have to do. These are the 3 forms. If there's any other forms here that you need to go fill out, go take a look. It'll walk you through it on this business loan application. But just by applying for that loan, as soon as you get a hold of the person that is evaluating your application, you can ask for that 10,000. It's actually up to 10,000, so you can request less. My advice to you is request the full amount. Okay, so ask for up to $10,000. That will be advanced, and you do not have to repay that. So this is the site you want to go to. We'll post the link, but they have, I think it's 1 million of these at $10,000. So that means there's $10 billion allocated to this. So you guys, because you're watching here today, because you took the action to sit down here on a Friday to watch this, now you know 1 million of these applications will be the first one to get this $10,000 advance. So this free $10,000, if there's anything you take away from this broadcast, if there's anything you take away, go get this free $10,000. Just go do it right now. Whether or not you actually get the loan or not, doesn't matter. You're gonna get $10,000 advanced right away. Use this hack to get that money you need, so that way you're not pulling from your own personal savings to pay payroll and doing all kinds of stuff like that. So this is the fastest way to get the $10,000 from SBA right now.
So 2 quick questions on this topic. Do we know why? So there is one, why would someone get denied from applying to the SBA loan? Do we have any high level reasons why someone get denied either way?
Yeah, even if you get denied, you get the $10,000. So that's the beauty of this. Now, obviously there's lots of reasons for denial, but one of them could be credit. So that means length of history, how you've operated as a business so far. But irrespective of whether you get denied or approved, you're gonna get access to this $10,000 because the government's trying to put money as fast as they can in the hands of small business owners.
And this is probably something that we don't know for certain, but in terms of timeline, do we know a timeline on this $10,000?
Yes. So after you have put in your application, then you can request that amount within 3 days after they receive. Is it 3 days that they'll send it out, or you can request it that early? You know, it was in the general section.
Trying to look here. Trying to read through all this legalese here.
You don't have to, even though that's a lot of paperwork, but we want to get you the right answers.
Yeah.
So what was the
provided advance to such applicant within 3 days after the administrator receives an application from such applicant? Good thing that real people don't talk like that, right?
Yeah. So it does look like it's that 3 days. So make sure you also do everything in writing, and you request when you make these requests, try to have a paper trail of everything you're doing. Now is like the most important time to have everything covered in writing. Yeah, see, look, someone else has said do everything in writing. Do it in writing, guys.
I'll plug in that into our chat. I'm gonna copy and paste that quote from that I read to you.
Cool.
Yep, just so you guys see all the things. But anyways, this is gonna lead into something interesting. Let me go real quick. I'm gonna show you guys something here. After that update. Okay, was there anything else that we wanted to cover, Mel, real quick before I go and show this really cool trends in trades health here?
No, I think just our commitment to, continue to get smart on this topic. I mean, this is just signed into law today. So as links are updated, as the application process becomes more clear, as we get, certain on the dates of how long it takes to, get money in your hands, we'll update you here every night, Monday through Friday. So keep the questions coming, keep posting things in our Facebook group, and know that we're working just as fast as we can to, you know, comb through all the details so that you don't have to pick up that 800-page document.
Mm-hmm. And
Yep.
One last thing on that. So we talked about this topic yesterday, and right now I'm finding the link for you guys for the one pager on the Families First Act and on everything we know so far on the SBA loan. So I'm going to throw that in. I'm going to throw all the resources we have so far up to date in the chat and in the Facebook Live thread.
Great.
Yeah, and we're probably going to reiterate this on the next couple nightly updates here, just to make sure that all of our pros know to go get this $10,000. Whether or not you actually get approved for the SBA loan that you're requesting access to, you're going to get that $10,000 no matter what, and you're not forced to repay that whatsoever. So this is a free $10,000. If you're not doing this, you're not taking advantage of what you know, the U.S. government has done for us in the past. So make sure you go do that. So I'm going to cover something that is unique to us here that is hopefully going to be helpful for all of you guys here. So we're going to post this link. And what you're looking at here, this is what we call the Trades Health Index. So when we take a look at all of our pros, this is the only place to get this. So you can't listen to any other nightly news or anything like that. If you want to see this, this is available through us here at this link. So if you look here, there's two graphs. One is a leading indicator and one is a trailing indicator. Okay, so what that means is here's an index, this blue line of all the jobs that were scheduled in 2019, week over week. So week 1, this is the first week of January. Week 52, obviously really low. This is, you know, the week, right, the Christmas leading up until the New Year's. So throughout the year, this blue line represents 2019. This is the index. And then here you have the red line, which is 2020. And so this is the leading indicator. So this shows the average amount of scheduled jobs per week. This is week over week compared to 2019. So here what you're seeing is that in week 12, so we're in week 13 now, guys, but we're not showing that data point because week 13 isn't over yet. But we're going to expect it to be somewhere here and probably below week 12. Okay. As soon as I think Monday hits, this data is going to get refreshed and there'll be additional points. So this is something that you can check week over week, and we're going to keep bringing it up. As you can see here, scheduled jobs are down and completed jobs are down last week. So we expect both of these two things across all of the different trades to go down. Now we have availability to show this because we have the data of all of our users, so that way we can help inform you guys of what's going on here. Now this is where it gets really interesting, and you guys can go play around with this, but we have this data available on a trades by trades basis. We don't have this available on a state by state basis, but as you can imagine, some states like California, Washington, New York would have data that probably looks like what yours will look like 2 weeks from now. So kind of like a looking glass in the future. But here you can see, for example, like in the home cleaning space, if I switch this here, I can already start to see the impacts of coronavirus here in week 12. And so if you see the difference there between 102, this is how you use it, 102 minus 82. So that's a 20% difference. So on average, now 20% less jobs completed week over week. And scheduled jobs looks like it's down about 13% week over week here. So now we'll wait for the next week worth of data to come in. If you guys want to play around with this, there's all kinds of different trades in here. You can see that maybe plumbing, because it's more of an essential service here, is actually a little bit up in terms of completed jobs and just slightly below normal here for scheduled jobs. So probably we'll see a little bit of an impact coming this week 13, but this way you can go look at your industry that's in here and how all the trades are faring. This is the only place where you can get access to this data. So we're going to post this link here for you guys to take a look at, and we're going to post this link going forward as well. So hope that's helpful. But because of that, now more than ever, we're going to kind of transition and to bring our guests on. It's important to have a budget and to have a plan for what the next 90 days looks like. So what is those next 12 weeks going to look like from week 13 here that we saw, you know, all the way to week 20, 27, 25? Can't do math right now. Now, okay, so yeah, so we post that link in there for you guys. You don't have to Excel to see the data. Anybody can see the data. Even your friends can see the data. Even people using other software can see the data. This is not just for us. This is for everybody in the trades, and we're here to help everybody. So make sure you look at that link, and updates weekly. So don't hit that refresh button too often because it's not going to do anything week over week.
I love that, Roland. I didn't know that you guys had that posted up there. That is really cool. Because I think the problem is some people in the industry, when all they're looking at is the lens of what people are saying on Facebook as what the trends are and how industries are being impacted. And some people are like, oh my gosh, if you have like 3 people on Facebook in a group that are saying that business is terrible and the whole world is falling,
right.
Then that could be your perception as reality. So I like seeing that huge data pool there. That's helps kind of put it back into perspective. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So as a quick introduction, Brandon's been on. He was on last week. We talked about a lot about mindset and how to start tackling tough problems in tough times. So that's what we went over last week. So if you guys wanted us to rewatch that episode, you guys can. We've got that recorded. But we also have another guest here, Karen, who Brandon thought would be an amazing addition here to our nightly news. So we're excited to kind of go forward here and talk about everything from budgeting to KPIs to metrics to all kinds of different things, money related. Because right now, even though I told you guys to go get the $10,000, you're going to go right through that. And so we're here to make sure that you guys have a plan for the next, 80 days, more than just normal. So Brandon.
Yeah. So
maybe a quick intro. Who are you? And then introduce Karen, and we'll kind of go from there. We'll jump into the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Brandon Vaughn, and I am a window cleaner, pressure washer, exterior cleaning. Been in that space, honestly, since I was 13. Started working full time with my dad at 13 in the cleaning industry. Really passionate about the space. Had a business here in Portland, Oregon. Now I work with other small business owners. I'm the chief strategist over at a company called Conquer. And Karen, I wanted to invite onto here as well. She's CEO of Yeti Books. And Yeti Books is a bookkeeping company that specializes just in home service business owners and the trades. And I reached out to her because, I think it's fantastic when we talk about that, this is a curve and we're going to be on the other side of this. And for some trades, especially, they're going to see massive demand on the other side of this curve. But we kind of need to have contingency plans for what happens if business shuts down to a certain level and we have to, completely suspend services. Some businesses are already doing that. Some people watching this, maybe your business hasn't been suspended yet. However, as a good business leader and CEO, you need to have a game plan. You have to have a strategy plan, an action plan for if you were to shut down operations, exactly how much cash would you burn through in order to keep operations going and to survive? And how much would you need to either get an additional financing from the SBA or some of these other programs? And what would that look like? Or what would it look like if you dropped down to half capacity as opposed to just completely shutting down? Right. So we put our nerdy brains together and I said together. I said together. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm a business nerd and financial geek. So
it's a compliment. Definitely.
We'll take it.
So I sat down, talked to Karen, and Karen came up with just a really, really awesome game plan for this and some awesome tips. So I thought it would be cool to bring her on and have her talk to the pros and just kind of share some things from an accountant standpoint, and kind of survive in this.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to do probably like a 10 to 15 minute kind of walk through, a little bit talk, and then we're going to open up to Q&A. So if you guys have questions, remember, especially for Karen, drop them in this Q&A box right here on the bottom.
Cool. So maybe Karen, you take it away and then kind of walk us through some things and we can all chat about it.
Sure. So what we came up with was 3 critical things that we can be looking at right now to weather this storm. I truly believe we're going to come out the other side stronger and better. So how do we do that? So if I can share my screen, I'm going to walk through a few things here. Oh, there we go. So we came up with 3 mission critical steps And I'm calling the first one, take inventory of your finances. Really look at everything. Critical step number 2 is check your business's health. Are you healthy to begin with? Kind of like your body. If you're not already healthy, you're at greater risk. And then our critical step number 3, we created a 90-day strategic plan template that you can use to help you figure out different scenarios and what might work best in your business, or what does your business need. So we're going to kind of just walk through here. Taking inventory of your finances. This is big, and I think we're all doing this now, personally and business-wise. What are the numbers? What do we truly need to have? What can we let go of? So I'm saying look at every expense on your P&L, and don't just look at the categories. Don't just look at supplies. Like, drill down into that. A lot of times people sign up for fancy new shiny software and then they never use it. And so these expenses add up. So really dig down to the nitty-gritty detail and see what all those expenses are. What can you let go? What's going to make a difference to your numbers now? A report that I use with all my clients is, and not a lot of people tend to look at this, but is running your P&L based on the percent of income. And I'm going to show you what that looks like and what kind of data will you get by that. Knowing that in most cases, payroll, of course, is going to be one of your highest percentages of income. And for a lot of companies, it's 40 to 50% of your income. So let's look at this is the P&L based on a percent of income. So you see your normal numbers that you see in your P&L, then off to the side column, it tells you what percent each is of income. So what does that mean? So if we take a look at this maintenance and repair, 10%. So that means 10% of every dollar you earn is going towards maintenance and repair. This is a landscape company I'm looking at. So maybe they need to look at their equipment. Maybe it needs to be updated. Maybe now's not the time, but know that 10% of it's going towards that. So run it and look at these numbers. This is what I find a lot of people. Here's a miscellaneous category. Right? 32% of every dollar is going to miscellaneous. I'm sure we can cut that number down. Right?
It's funny because I went through this exercise myself, and of course it always takes me in a little more of a tougher situation to actually do this exercise.
Yeah.
We should be doing this anyways.
Yeah.
But we went through not only in our family expenses, but also in our business expenses. And I found so many things that I signed up for 6 months ago and we're just getting auto billed and I didn't even really know it.
Yes.
Yes. And then two, one thing I'll add on to this is I always love looking at things in the percentage side, because sometimes we're like, we look at these super granular things and we're like, oh, I could cut this expense and that expense. And we go back and look at it and it's made hardly any movement on your stuff whatsoever.
Right.
There's some expenses that are critical to your operations and you're like, oh, I could save $100 a month if I cut down on that. Whereas your biggest impact is always going to be your payroll in a service business. And those types of things are really where you can make a big swing on those percentages.
Exactly. And payroll, that's a hard one right now because you're affecting people, but that if you want your business to continue, that's a hard look and one that a lot of people are going to have to take right now. So the next thing we're talking about is checking your business's health. Are you healthy? What can you do to increase that health? And what do we look at to tell us those numbers? So the first one, I think a lot of people are already looking at that. You look at your profit and loss report. You look at your net profit. Oh, great, I'm bringing in some money. But that doesn't tell the whole story of your business and is it doing well? So there's some other numbers we look at. Right now, a big one is debt to asset ratio. And we'll dive a little deeper into why that's really critical right now and what that's going to tell us. biggest one, and we all know the statistics. I think it's up to 82% of small businesses fail because of cash flow. So really need to be looking at that and deciding is your company healthy? Do you have the cash flow? Most people say no, I don't know where it's going. And then the next big thing is accounts receivable. So the first, we all talked about the net profit margin. We know how to get that. So what we want to talk about is your debt to asset ratio and why this is important. So right now, people are trying to get loans. They're going to banks, they're going to SBA, wherever it may be. This is going to be looked at. So what you want to do is run your balance sheet, get your total assets and your total debt. So you're going to divide your debt by your assets. Now, if we did that for this company, we're looking at a number of 132%, right? That's not a healthy company. Banks generally want to see maybe a 40%. So what does that mean? It means 40% of your operations are being funded by loans or other notes payable. So you want to keep that number low. 60% even is going to be a little high for some lending institutions. So really critical, really telling it. So here's the other piece of that, and I'm finding more and more often with my clients is that they don't even have their assets listed in their books. Sometimes they don't even have their loans listed. So we really need to get those numbers in there. And if you don't have your assets in your books, get it in there. Do a deep dive and find out. You want to have a true full picture of the health of your business.
If I could add a little
Yes.
blip onto that.
Yes.
It is so important whenever you're buying these larger pieces of equipment. If you're buying a pressure washer, a carpet cleaning rig, if you're buying a truck or what, any of these larger pieces of equipment, they aren't going to appear on your profit and loss. They should never appear on there because they're assets. And too often I've seen these balance sheets look really skewed, really out of whack because they're putting so many of their assets on their profit and loss, not actually over on their balance sheet. So you may actually have a really good, healthy debt to asset ratio, but maybe your bookkeeper is not actually, putting those in the right places. So this is something that, that's really important to make sure that you are getting those things classed correctly, especially if you're going in to try to get some financing in these times.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't, this is the one thing, and we'll talk about it on the next screen too, is they're always, it says, my profit and loss says I have income, why do I have no money? And they're forgetting about their liabilities, which, like Brandon said, isn't going to show on your profit and loss. It's a liability of the company, so it's going to be over here. So that's going to segue us right into your statement of cash flows. Very important document.
And it's my favorite report, by the way.
Because it answers that question, where did my money go? It says I'm making a profit, where did it go? Well, let's look at it. So here was this company's net income for this period of time, $1,400. But if you look at the bottom line, here's what they started with, 48. They ended with 4,000, so $800. That's a lot less than 14 that was cash at the end of the period. So what affects that? Notes payable. Anytime you have a loan is going to affect that number. This is another big one, and another big one that people should be looking at right now, accounts receivable. Do people owe you money? You need it now. So maybe now is the time to create a plan to try and get some of that from your customers. And it might be a tough question. Maybe you need to be doing some sort of financing for them or giving them a deal. But definitely look at that number. This report tells you where your money went. So get familiar with it.
And you can go straight into QuickBooks and just click it and it pops straight up.
Yep, exactly.
Yep, and I would say don't be afraid to get innovative with your accounts receivable. Sometimes it's much better to give someone a discount to get them to pay it today, right now. Like literally you could show up and be like, hey, if you pay now, like I'm gonna give you a discount. Otherwise you're just gonna write off as bad debt and it's gone forever. There's a really cool other piece of software called Callbox out there. And you can dump stuff into there and they'll go chase them down for you. Obviously, in like today's time, you might even need a more hardcore approach. Ultimately, you can always sell your debt as well. But, you know, I would say try the first approach first.
Yeah, I know it's tough when you're looking at your payroll that's coming out this Friday and it's Monday and you have like $5,000 less than what you actually need, but yet you have $30,000 sitting in your accounts receivable. It's like
people don't often enforce their net terms either. Like now is the time to enforce it. So go enforce your net terms and come down on them and be like, look, you know, it's 5% more, 5% more, and show them when you reach out to them, hey, your bill's going up, your bill's going up. Ultimately now in today's times, you just want them to get them pay and say, hey, it's going to keep going up. I'll give you a discount, payment out.
Right.
That's so good. And yeah, take credit cards up front with your residential customers too.
Yeah, COD.
That's a whole other tip that I would. I honestly, your residential, everyone who's watching this, if your residential AR is not $0, something's wrong. You need to change your processes. Your commercial, sure, they could have net accounts, but your residential should always be at 0.
Exactly. That is a big one. And yeah, definitely get creative. There's plenty out there to get coming back in to pay that payroll. So that brings us to our 90-day strategic plan. And this is a document, it's a working document that anyone can use, and it's gonna help you create that contingency plan. I think Brandon said in the beginning. So what happens if you do have to shut down? There's still going to be some costs that you are going to have to incur no matter if you're running business or not. So let's put that into the plan. What if you need to cut back by 50% maybe? How much cash are you going to burn in those times? So plan out different scenarios. With this tool, you can try out different things and see what the numbers are going to look like. So let's just take a quick peek at it. This is what we came up with. Try to make it pretty
don't freak out, people. Don't freak out. It's just Excel.
And it's, you know, it's
some people just had a heart attack.
I know. It's easy to use. You're only filling in the yellow sections. Normally, I myself freak out over all these colored fields, but it's good. We made it easy. So over on the right-hand side, you'll add in, you know, how much do I as an owner have to take home to my family each month? And I'm hoping that you as a family are going through your personal expenses and seeing what you can, you know, alleviate at this time as well. And then here's where you can run some different risk scenarios. If I have my technicians only working 3 days a week, if I only have a few technicians instead of the full staff. Oops, I keep going down too far. Your admin staff. So those numbers will then plug in over to the tracking spreadsheet. You're going to add in your debt payments, any asset purchases that you are going to make during this time. Put in your target revenue. These will all create different scenarios. Like I said, it's an Excel spreadsheet, so copy and paste it. Do a whole nother 90-day scenario. We want this to be helpful and help you answer those questions that may be a little difficult to answer right now.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add to on this is that I always was the big nerdy, you know, Excel spreadsheet guy with all my expenses. These expenses, we've tried to like simplify them down a little bit, so it's not so many crazy amounts of things, to where it's a little bit more like essential services and things that you have, essential expenses. But in the budget line item, yes, you will feel like you're guessing. You'll feel like, I don't know, is this how much I do? I don't know, maybe.
Right.
But just take like each little box, just one little box at a time, and fill in your best educated guess, because an educated guess is better than waiting 90 days and then seeing what happened.
Right.
So at least you could start taking a look at some scenarios and you know, kind of estimating, okay, what would happen if I got no money for the next 3 months, no revenue coming in? You know, what are my bare bones minimum one? Now I want to duplicate this sheet. I want to create a new scenario where, you know, we're reducing all of our technicians to only working 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week. And how much, you know, would that be? How much revenue could they kind of bring in there? So it's just a little tool to make a few things. And and maybe we won't have to worry about actually using this. The best time to plan for a crisis was yesterday.
Yep.
The second best time to plan for a crisis is starting right now.
Right.
So, even if you never have to use this because, the stimulus comes in and things get raised and your business doesn't get affected that bad, you will have it in your pocket for another time, so that way you did have that preparation yesterday. I think it's awesome. I mean, I'm totally geeking out over it. I love it.
So this sheet we're going to make available to everyone that's watching this. So we're going to shoot this out via email. We have a blog post up that's got a place where you can click download it so that way you can get it. And then if you have questions or need any help, built into the spreadsheet, there's Karen's email there, where if you're running through some scenarios and you have some questions, you can actually go reach out and maybe even just run through them and see, hey, does this sound accurate? Does this look right? Do you want to take a look at my QuickBooks? Does this match what the scenarios that I'm planning for? So all super important things.
Definitely. Yeah, and we are here to help. That's all we can do right now is just help each other and try to do the best we can. And we're going to come out the other side stronger.
Yep. All right. So we got some questions for you here.
We keep sharing or stop sharing the screen. Roland.
Oh, okay. We can stop. All right. I can't do that. Oh, there we go.
Awesome. So right now we go into our Q&A portion of our daily update. So we have some questions on this topic for Karen and Brandon, and then we also have some ones for Mel and Roland based off our first State of the World, a lot around SBA loans and that $10,000 Roland was talking about if you apply or get denied from the SBA loan. So the first one is for you, Karen, from Facebook. What would be considered long-term liability that's common? Ways to reduce? Thanks.
I understand that question. One more time.
So what would be considered long-term liability, in quotes, that's common?
Just your loans that you've taken out, if you've bought equipment or vehicles or purchased a building or land, depending on the industry, those are going to be your long-term liabilities.
Yep, and they'll be offset by it on the asset side of things.
Exactly.
So, think about it in reverse. What are some things that you have on the asset side that obviously you're paying for because they're super expensive? Those typically will end up being long-term liabilities for most of you guys.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll bring Jen, or not, I was reading a question from Jen. Mel back on. If she's still here. There she is.
Hello. I'm here.
This is another question, and we got asked it a bunch. So this $10,000, can we do a high-level summary? What's the URL for the application, and how do I get access to that?
Okay, so the $10,000, and Roland is maybe even smarter on this than I am. So the $10,000 is an advance on the Small Business Administration Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So we did a whole topic on those loans last week, so we can make sure and reshare that information. So the link that Roland walked you through, he can probably drop in where he was and show that in the chat. But that was a link to the SBA, the Small Business Administration's Economic Injury Disaster Loan. There it is.
EIDL. So if you see that acronym anywhere, this is what this is. Because I feel like sometimes acronyms get thrown around and people are like, "What is that thing?" It's
too many acronyms, man.
It's right over here. We'll post this link, but this is exactly where you can do it. You can either do it online or you can mail it in. Either way, you're going to have to fill out some information, and some of the things that Karen just shared is going to be asked for in this process.
And so we previously talked about those loans, and they do offer a way for people to get some money right up front, within the first couple of weeks, a $25,000 infusion. This is now adding to that you can get $10,000 within days, as opposed to your first $25,000 within a few weeks. So it's just really shortcutting a lot of the process to take people at their word that yes, they're a small business. Yes, everything that I submitted is true and complete. And then here's this advance. You still go through the loan processing. They still go through all of their you know, government dotting I's and crossing T's. And then when you're approved for the loan, you've just already received $10,000 of that loan, or less if you've just requested an advance of $5,000 to help you until you get approved.
Yeah, I would say request 10,000 because you never have to repay this. So if you end up not qualifying for this, then that's okay. If you get denied for the loan, that's okay. You still get to keep that $10,000. So there's nothing that you have to lose here.
And another question we got both on Facebook and on our Zoom side here is, what if I've already applied to an SBA loan? Can I go back and ask for this? What if I've already been approved for the SBA loan? So people who were already in the process, does this still apply to them?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so you can go ask for an advance. So if you already have it approved, reach back out and say, hey, I saw this statute. Actually, maybe we'll post that as well. Like the exact legalese, hey, this was here, I want to get a $10,000 in advance.
Awesome. And then for our last question here, it's back to Karen and Brandon. Do you have any advice for filling out this worksheet? Excel's pretty daunting for a lot of people. Do you have any pieces of advice for our pros when filling this out, and like how long it will take them to do, and the ultimately what they're going to learn from this data?
Yeah, my advice would be, how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time.
Right.
So just start up at the very, very top line with just your revenue and just say, okay, how much do I think I'm going to do for next month? How much do I think I'll do roughly for next month? How much for next month? Really, it probably only take you about 30 minutes to kind of go through. Some people who want to look at last year's information and might have to look up a couple numbers or look in their QuickBooks to try to figure out roughly how much their expenses are. It could take a little bit longer than that. But my suggestion is the very first scenario that you do, have it be if, business is going to be completely shut down, no revenue coming in, just full lockdown, and just kind of get that like baseline of how much it just costs for you to just, figure out what your cash burn rate is in your business. With zero operations going and still keeping those critical systems, because you don't want to shut everything down. Right. Then when you spin back up again, it's going to take you too long to get going. So there's going to be some critical systems, critical software components that you're going to have your whole operations on it, and make sure you keep those intact and keep those expenses, lined up there so that you know what that cash burn rate is. And then you can start playing around with a couple other scenarios and, duplicating that sheet.
I think it kind of goes hand in hand with when you're looking at your expenses, you're already determining what is a must-have and what can go. So when you look at your P&L, maybe you do pull it for last year at this time, and you start with those numbers. What can we cut? And as you're doing that, you plug the numbers in that particular box. That's literally all it is. Yes, it's an Excel spreadsheet, but the formulas are there for you. You just drop in some numbers and it will do the rest.
Yep, no calculating. It'll do it for you. That's the beauty of Excel. That's already been done for you.
Yes.
All the other stuff will magically, like I was playing around with it. As you start putting in numbers, everything else starts kind of working around itself, which is really cool. So go look for those boxes, just fill them in, and it starts to give you the data that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was all the time we have for questions. We have all of them saved in our ongoing Google Doc. One last thing is, how are you guys going to get this spreadsheet? So right now I'm going to post the blog post that has a link to download Karen and Brandon's awesome spreadsheet for you. And I'm also going to post it in the Facebook page in its own post. If you have any questions about it, Karen's email is at the bottom there. So other than that, I'm going to be posting the links for those resources. And this is a good project for over the weekend. It's not going to take you too much time, but it's obviously going to provide a lot of insight into your business. So take the weekend to do that in between hanging out with your family and being present with them, as Brandon left us last Friday. So now you have some bonus, what do you call it? Bonus assignments.
Bonus workshops.
Bonus workshops.
So, other than that, let's continue this conversation back in the Facebook group. I'm going to post the link to it in our chat if you guys aren't in it yet. And yeah, other than that, we'll see you guys back here at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Monday. Roland, do you want to talk about what our topic is going to be, because it's on like the SBA loans? You want to give them a little insight about what we'll be spending our weekend doing?
We're going to be doing a lot of research, exactly walking through how, walking through all the steps, what you can and can't do, and just continue to disseminate this 800-page monstrosity to condense it into actionable things that you guys can go take steps. Our goal after every single one of these nightly casts is to make sure if you do one thing each night that you keep moving forward, because inactivity is what's going to inevitably kill you. Just being active, moving forward, and just doing one thing every single day is going to keep you from going under, and when things get better, you're going to come catapulting out the other end. So we're going to give you guys homework assignments. We're going to go, we're going to do an update too of the trends. So the data is going to be live again on the trades health index. So we're going to go review that real quick and see if there's any anomalies as well. So stay tuned, because the only way to get it is by Housecall Pro right here for you guys on our webpage, and this coronavirus nightly cast that we do. So thank you, guests, for coming on. Brandon, Karen,
My
super
pleasure.
helpful.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
guys all have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye, guys.